What's going on, guys? Midwest Tokusatsu here, and this is going to be a spoiler-filled review for Power Rangers Cosmic Fury, all 10 episodes. So if you haven't seen it yet, I suggest you stop this video now, go watch it, and then come back. So to start off, I'll say I was pleasantly surprised by how good this actually was, because based on some production notes that we got from Simon Bennett, we heard that there weren't going to be any filler episodes, and they were going to kind of tone down the humor, I think. And they were also going to do away with moral of the day type storytelling. And that kind of gave me a sneaking suspicion that this was going to be a little more standard, like before the Neo Saban era standard of Power Rangers. And to my surprise, and not so much my surprise, it actually was. I mean, dialogue was improved, acting felt more natural, and there was just so much more of a sense of adventure around the whole thing. You can tell they had a lot more creative freedom this time, and they weren't bogged down by studio mandates. And then being only 10 episodes, it was a little more fast-paced than I would have preferred, but I'm pretty sure we all understand what happened behind the scenes at this point. But for what it's worth, they made it work as best as they could. So I guess the way I'll do this is I'll kind of go through each episode, kind of give the rundown and give my thoughts on each one. And these are going to be the Netflix descriptions, mind you. So, episode 1, Lightning Strikes. Bejilia enlists Lord Zed to lead her armies in an intergalactic war, and things only get worse when the two capture a Power Ranger for their team. So Bejilia is a character that we're first introduced to here, along with her daughter, whose name kind of skips me, but she's the CEO of Squid Inc., and they're an intergalactic weapons company, and they're an arms dealer, and they sell weapons to, bad guys across the universe. And she's teamed up with Lord Zed to fight the Rangers on planet Zornia, which we know as the home planet of the Shogun Zords. The fight's really fast-paced, but two major things happen. So first, they capture Ali once again and make him evil. And then Zato gets yeeted off to another planet that we don't know of yet, so they gotta find him now. Oh, and stupid me, Billy is also there, and he teams up with them as well. So while the battle ensues, Lord Zed manages to capture the Morphin Masters, leaving only, I think, the Red One staff behind, which Javi then gets a hold of, and he's given this vision of this altar, and we know this is the altar where the Cosmic Fury Zords are. So I know this is a lot at once, but once again, it's very fast-paced, so they cram a lot in here. So they head over to the altar, and it's Javi who activates it with the staff, and all of a sudden there's this huge burst of energy, which basically just blows his right arm off. And from the promo images that we were given, we all kind of suspected that this was the case, but being how kind of juvenile as the show has been for many years at this point, it's it was very shocking to see them actually, go there. I didn't think they had it in them to do something like that, but here we are. But anyway, Zords are unleashed, and there's a battle with one of Bajilia's squid drills, and they're these, giant robots that can turn into drills and dig into planets. And Ollie's piloting this one, so it's a Megazord battle with Ollie. But it ends with them destroying the squid drill and capturing Ollie and heading back to base. Episode 2 is Beyond Repair, so Team Cosmic Fury prepares for a possible invasion from Lord Zed, while Amelia tries to cure an evilized Ranger and Javi learns to accept his new loss. So this is where Javi gets his new robotic arm, and Lord Zed begins his invasion of Earth. So there's a Zord battle, Lord Zed gets to the Dino Hinge base, and he destroys basically their statues that contain their powers, thus the Rangers lose their powers, and the only Ranger left standing is Billy because his powers don't come from Dino Hinge. But the Rangers make their escape back into their base, and Solon reveals plans that she had been working on to convert their base into a ship, so she transports them to a distant planet called Eridus, and they're kind of stranded there for now. So episode 3 is Off-Grid, so stranded on a faraway planet with no powers, Team Cosmic Fury scrambles to figure out a way home while Earth suffers an invasion from enemy forces. So they're still finding a way to get off Eridus, and in the meantime, they're attacked by what's called scuttle worms who are trying to get at the ship. And then back on Earth, Ollie meets up with his mother. And he's pretending to be good to get information out of her. And she mistakenly shows him this message that she got from Mick, where he's on Levena, and he reveals that he may have found traces of Zato's life force around the planet. So he goes to Lord Zed, lets him know, and then back on Eridus, Billy and Solon have been working on new morphers for the Rangers, which they were able to build from the residuals of their Dino Keys. And then this is where they get the message from Mick, but also where he lets them know that Lord Zed is already there, so they have to rush to get there. Episode 4, Teamwork. Ollie races Team Cosmic Fury to find Zato, but the Zenith Rangers' location is anyone's guess. They better move fast, though. Lord Zed's forces loom. So Ollie is already there with a couple of Lord Zed's goons, and strangely enough, one of them is Stinger's brother from Q Ranger, if you remember what he looks like. But unfortunately, he's not a major player here. But the Rangers aren't too far behind, like they take the Zords and go to Levina. And this is where they prepare to fight Ollie, and he reveals this sick new suit that he has that Scrazzo made for him. And the Rangers morph, and the fight ensues. The Rangers get the upper hand, and they continue their search for Zato. And they eventually find him amongst the tree life in the planet's forest. And the tree life has sentience, apparently. But Ion's the one that gets to Zato first, and they have a little moment where the planet mentions, like, enjoy the time you have left, Zato. And that makes Ion a little worried, so to speak. Zato tries to brush it off like it's no big deal, but Ion's not having it. So after another Zord and Squidro battle, everyone's back at base and Zato gets his new morpher. And he calls himself the Zenith Ranger because that's what the Morphin Masters called him when they brought him back. Now back over to Lord Zed, he's setting up shop on planet Eltar, which I'm just gonna assume you know the significance of that. And Ollie is there as well, pondering on his defeat earlier on Levina. But Lord Zed imparts some evil wisdom on him, saying that you failed because you still think like a ranger. Like, the only way to prevail is to only, like, look out for yourself. Like, just forget teamwork. Now, before I move on, there were a couple of things I would like to point out in this episode. A couple of, like, cringe moments that I still think PR kind of has an issue with that they still need to, do away with. Like, earlier when Ollie was on Levina with the goons, like, one of them started some kind of, like, dancing routine that was just kind of, like, out of nowhere, which was a little weird. And then later, when the Rangers are on Levina with Mick's trying to retrace his steps when he was trying to find Zato because he had, like, shapeshifted into a bird. So he starts making these, like, cawing noises that was just kind of annoying. And it took me out of the experience a little bit, so it in no way, like, ruined the show for me, but PR, of course, is like, it has like that stigma of campiness behind it, but that doesn't mean it needs to be cringe-worthy. I just think moments like that can turn off like a newer or like a wider audience from, watching the show or like getting into it, if they think it's as bad as they've always thought it was. So now episode 5 is called Rockout. So when Vigilia discovers a long-lost Zord on a mining planet, the Rangers must create a musical distraction to stop her from using it as a war weapon. So the Rangers get word from Mick that Vigilia has found a Dragon Zord on another planet. So they come up with a plan inspired by Javi's drumming earlier, to where they pose as a band to distract Lord Zed's crew and get to the Zord. When Ollie snuffs the Rangers out, that gives Zato the chance to then get to the Zord and escape. But he's followed by Vigilia's copy guards, and the Rangers have to follow him soon afterwards. So Zato defeats the copy guards, and the Rangers show up after the Squid Drill, shows up. And they form the Megazord, defeat Vigilia once again, and that's the end of that. So back at the base, Billy and Solon reveal that they finished the repairs on the ship, so now they can get it moving. And they also get a message from Tarek back on Earth that him and the other Afconians have formed a resistance to try and fight off Lord Zed's forces. And he also reveals that he has a spy on the inside of his ranks to try and get info. And that the anti-Zord force field around the Earth is powered by the squid drills that have been planted on different sectors of the planet there. So if they take one down, they all go down. Now back on Lord Zed's ship, we see that the spy is revealed to be Heckle from Dino Charge because he's posing as kind of like Vigilia's daughter's boyfriend. Episode 6, Takeoff. Solon goes missing right as the Rangers prepare to fly the base back to Earth, but the team has bigger problems. Ollie's tracker has led him to Eridus. So this is the one where Solon is kidnapped by the Scuttleworm and Fern has to save her, and in doing so, she actually gains her Ranger powers, and she becomes our first official Orange Ranger. The rest of the Rangers are also intercepted by Ollie, but they eventually escape once the ship is up and flying. And we also finally get our face reveal of Heckle. Episode 7, Operation Seasoning. To save Pine Ridge, Team Cosmic Fury must dismantle a system of squid drills, creating an anti-Zord force field around Earth, with the help of a spy. So the Rangers formulate a plan to take down the squid drills that project the anti-Zord force field around Earth, along with Heckle, who's been serving as an informant the entire time. However, the plan ends up failing as everyone except for Zato, Ion, and Tarek are captured inside of Zed's prison. And on top of that, Zato is weakened from using his magic to repair the Zords. So they all recoup back at one of the rebel bases, and they come up with a plan to where they project a giant image of Solon while they take 2 transporters and take one of the squid drills and transport that right on top of the prison that's holding the Rangers, thus breaking the shields or force fields and freeing them. Another fight ensues, and Heckle this time joins the battle as the Dark Ranger for the first time. Episode 8, Switching Sides. 2 ex-villains should be the last people to cure Ollie, but Ion has a plan that just might work. Meanwhile, Zato's secret becomes harder to hide. So Ion randomly stumbles across Slither and Mucus, who we know as 2 of the villains from the previous 2 seasons, and he brings them back to the Resistance HQ because he believes that they've turned a new leaf. But the rest of the team isn't quite having it. So to prove themselves, they agree to go on Lord Zed's ship and destroy Ollie's, Triceratops Dino Hinge statue, thus freeing him of Lord Zed's influence. Or so they thought. Episode 9, Master Plan. The connection to the Morphin Grid is in danger, unless the team can travel to Eltar and take back the Master Captivator and Ollie without backup. It turns out that Ollie was faking still being evil, and he reveals Lord Zed's plan to turn himself into a Morphin Master. So they head to planet Eltar to face Zed head-on. They manage to get to Ollie, but not before Bejilia sets a trap for the base to explode, so Zato has to use the last of his magic to put a force field around them as the building collapses, thus causing Zato to die, again. But this time, in some strange way, Ion's spirit clings onto him, but it sends Ion to this separate plane of existence, this other ether, where he meets up with a familiar figure that looks like Zato, but it's more so implied to be Zordon, but I'm pretty sure that's what they meant, so I'm just going to say it's Zordon. So Ion is left in a comatose state for the time being, while the rest of them go off to fight Zed, and Zed is already gearing up to unleash his final form, his Master Zed form. And the suit is hella sick, mind you. But it's just a shame that he doesn't get to fight the Rangers in that suit, at all. It gives me major Super Shredder vibes. But this is when Bejilia shows up with her device that she's going to use to then trap Lord Zed, and then use this to create a reverse countdown to destruction, or reverse Z-wave, to where Zed's energy would wash the universe of all good instead of evil. It's pretty clever if you ask me. Episode 10, The End. If Team Cosmic Fury can't stabilize the Master Captivator, a wave of pure evil threatens to wipe out all good in the universe. No pressure, right? So quote-unquote Zordon sends back Ion to help his friends. So they formulate a plan to send the canister that Zed is inside of into the Morphin Grid. And to do that, they have to take the staff from episode 1 and put it back in the Altar of Zordnia, but this time they're going to do it together so we don't have a repeat of last time. And when they get there, they're met by Bejilia, and she tries to stop them, but they're able to combine the weapons and defeat her once and for all. She drops her gun and shoots a crack inside the tube, so now the Rangers have to hurry. So once they open up the grid, it brings Zato back temporarily, and he sends all of them inside the tube to try and convince Zed to, give up his power so that his energy isn't scattered and that he isn't destroyed, which eventually he agrees to. And we cut to a shot of the Rangers on the ground, seemingly defeated, and out of nowhere, Zed is greeted by Rita, and it was revealed to be a fake out by Zato to where he sent them to planet Nibiru, which is a planet where him and Ion were on, I want to say back in Dino Fury Season 1, where, they were forced to suffer these fake illusions because that's what this planet does to you. And for all intents and purposes, that's where we leave Zed. So now with the Morphin Masters free, they've come to collect Zato, and everyone says their goodbyes. But not before Ion reveals that he may have an idea of where Zato's Morphin Master powers came from, and he reveals that he talked to the being in the ether, which we know to be Zordon, and that he was aware that Zato was inside the Morphin grid. And so the episode in Power Rangers as we know it ends with a concert from Javi. And in the background, Ion explains his out-of-body experience to Billy, and Billy is pretty sure that it was the spirit of Zordon. But it ends with a final bow from the cast and a cool coolio from Zato. So, if I'm being honest, I kind of expected Cosmic Fury to be as good as it was, because I said before, like, if it's as good as I think it might be, it still might not be enough to save the rest of Dino Fury and the Neo Saban era for me, which that still stands, but I'm still glad to say that Power Rangers can end on a higher note. The tone was a lot more consistent for one thing, it hit that right balance between, it was more heavily plot focused, but it was also still fun, not so much to the point where, it's it became cringeworthy, but you can tell the writers took the plot serious this time. And on top of that, the cast felt a lot more cohesive. I don't know if it's the fact that they've been doing this for 2 years, but they felt a lot more comfortable in their roles, and their acting wasn't so stilted, so to speak. Especially Ion, because, I've had the biggest issue with how Ion was written. The writers gave him the most juvenile dialogue for throughout the first 2 seasons. And then he kind of fell into some stereotypes that didn't quite sit right with me either. He was trying too hard to be the hip black guy of the team. But this time, he's actually given more important things to do. And that kind of involves Zato and his little side story. But the point is, Ion doesn't sound like he's from Sesame Street or whatever. And also, I appreciate that they had the guts to go for some of the more, heavy-hitting moments, like Javi's arm, for example. And I mean, just by looking at the promo images from months ago, we all kind of expected this to be the case, but I didn't think that they would do it as explicitly as they did. They pulled no punches. And I mean, okay, there wasn't any blood or whatever, but you could probably argue that the energy blast probably cauterized his arm. And then the fact that they've killed off Zato twice now. I, for one, didn't think they would do it again, but this time he's one of the Morphin Masters. And I guess if they ever wanted to bring him back, they'd probably have to write around that some kind of way. And now I know there's the whole argument on Twitter that a lot of black fans feel like Zato got demoted in place of Amelia. Which, story-wise, that didn't bother me so much. But there was something else in the production notes that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So apparently, according to Simon Bennett, they were going to make the Zenith Ranger, Zato's new suit, a White Ranger. But Hasbro Corporate didn't like that idea because they thought that it would be racist to put a black character in a White Ranger suit, which is all kinds of just dumb. Because I would argue that, okay, so because this person's black, they can't be a White Ranger? That's racist in and of itself. And I feel like that's kind of been an issue with Black Rangers as well. Because I feel like they've been avoiding making black characters Black Rangers as well. Because of, the racist stigmas that can kind of come with that. But once again, I would argue, okay, so because this person's black, they can't be a Black Ranger? I just think that any race, any person can be any color ranger. And we just need to leave the racist connotations aside. But I'm not going to keep ranting on that because there's more to talk about. Because we now have our first official Orange Ranger. And I say official because for any longtime fans, we had that one thing in SPD where Boom faked being a ranger. And he had his own makeshift suit and he made it orange. It's kind of funny because the Cosmic Fury suits are makeshift in a way when you think about it. But that's just pure coincidence. And also, her helmet is an obvious repaint of Amelia's, so I feel like we kind of got cheated on that one. But I guess they did need the extra ranger to fill out the Zord quota, so to speak. And as a character, Fern is fine. I feel like she fit in better with the rest of the cast than Ion did at first. So there's that. And if I had to describe her, I'd say that she's very headstrong, a little mischievous, and she leaps before she looks, and that's kind of why Izzy was on her case so much, because she was just being an overprotective girlfriend. And speaking of Izzy, she was one of the, Tessa Rao was one of the stronger actors in the cast starting off, so I didn't think there was much of a change in her demeanor from, compared to, 2 years ago to now, because she already fit the character pretty well, so there wasn't much of a needed change to her. Now, I'm not doing this in any specific order, but the next Ranger that I wanted to bring up was Amelia. So she serves as our first full-time main cast female Red Ranger, and she didn't disappoint, because I know there's a whole thing with Zato being demoted, but story-wise, once again, I think it worked, because she really stepped up in Zato's absence, and it made sense that the Morphin Grid chose her to be the Red Ranger in her place. In his place. Sorry. Some of the more quirky aspects about her were put by the wayside, and she adopted this headstrong, determined demeanor, and it managed to not feel jarring. And that was really made clear when she was forced to put her duty as a ranger over her feelings for Ollie, because getting to him next, so once again, Ollie has been put under one of Lord Zed's evil spells, and it's for most of the season this time. And touching on the improved acting again, I really got to give it up to Kai Moya, because he had me convinced that the Rangers could not save him for a while, so I was kind of scared there. But hey, that's a credit to him. Let's see, who else is left, actually? Well, Billy, I gotta talk about him, right? So, I guess if I'm including this with Once and Always, David Yost fit back into the role of Billy like a glove, and that's saying something, because when I think back to the Dino crossover and Beast Morphers with Austin St. John, something just felt so off, with his acting in that episode. And I don't know what it was, but he just felt so stilted. But that's not the case with David Yost here. He still feels like Billy, because he keeps all the same mannerisms that he had back then, speaks in similar dialogue. I will say some parts where he was kind of speaking in technobabble, I thought he had learned way back then that no one understands that, and he kind of needs to dumb this down for the people who aren't as smart as him. It's that small thing felt like a little bit of a regression, but it's small. Plus, he translates anyway. And then for our other returning Rangers, I guess I didn't mind seeing Mick back, because as much as I don't like Ninja still, we all love Kelson Henderson, and it's great to see him involved with PR after almost 20 years. So he deserves his flowers. And then Heckle, he just kind of came and went. When he leaves, I forgot that he was even there, and I realized, oh wait, Heckle's gone. What? And I guess he served his role as Tarek's spy, but I kind of would have liked to have seen him stick around. So, wrapping up, for the time being, I think I would like to give Cosmic Fury a 4 out of 5, so in 80%, a B-. Because while it's not perfect, it really felt like they tried to give Power Rangers a standard again, like back in the days of the Disney era or the old Saban era. Basically the In Space through RPM era. Because they weren't afraid to tackle heavier topics like death, having your freaking arm blown off. And the overall tone didn't feel kiddie. Like I said, it felt like they were trying to capture that wider audience that I keep mentioning in my videos. And it serves well as a more family-oriented show, as opposed to that 2 to 6 year old demographic that I still don't agree with. Because Power Rangers is rated Y7FV, so that means the age demographic is supposed to start at 7 as opposed to 2, and it involves fantasy violence. And this really feels like it hit that mark. But I'm going to go ahead and end here, so let me know what you thought about Cosmic Fury down in the comment section down below. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to like my official page, Tokusatsu. We're also on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And this is Tokusatsu, signing out.